Good morning. This is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. PsychicTarot.ca, book your tarot reading and unlock your spiritual journey. And the Pepper Master, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids and cubs, and welcome to Season 5 and episode number 810 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. Oh, Canada! Always 100% Canadian. Today, recording day is Friday, December 12th, 2025, and it is another gray, dreary, sort of snowy day here at the Ottawa Beaver Lodge. I am your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver, eh? And not with me, as usual, is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly. Hopefully you can hear me at the moment, and you can hear, and the sound is all good at the moment. Oh boy, it's been really, really frustrating this morning. As you can tell, we're getting the show started about an hour and 20 minutes late. Nothing, absolutely nothing tech has been working here this morning. So I've MacGyvered as much as I can. I had a great show prepared for you with a whole bunch of wonderful clips and stuff. Hopefully, I'll be able to present them. um, Earlier, I tried to start and there was no sound, or the sound was really weird. Turns out that the lapel microphones that I have for better sound, even though I hadn't used them for a while, it seems that the batteries had completely discharged. I just expected that the battery hold from last time would still be there. So, yeah. Uh, so yeah, it definitely affected what was going on with the sound. So when I finally figured that out, I was able to rejig and get to you. I see the comments in the chat here about Alistair McBair here, the supervisor in the back. The bear looks like he went through it. Yeah, I guess his smoking jacket isn't on in the the most elegant manner. Mr. McBair. Oh well, he's a good boss though. He's a really good boss. So yes, I did not grab the bear and scream into it. So yeah, again, Kit Miss is going, yeah, when it rains, it pours. It really was. I couldn't, so many things. First of all, I couldn't log into Restream, and then it wouldn't recognize the login and the password, so I had to do a workaround and go around another way. And I'm at the Ottawa Beaver Lodge, as you can tell. So I am doing this through the phone because I was hoping to have the lapel clip, and that works into the phone, and use the laptop to be able to show clips. The laptop just would not do anything. Just completely stalled and stalled and stalled. And then when I finally was able to bring Restream up, I couldn't get both of them to connect. And then when I finally did get them to connect, I couldn't play anything video from the other one. And then on this one on the phone, I couldn't get the camera to orient out of vertical frame, which doesn't work for this show. And then when the batteries went out on the microphones, that's when you saw me put my hands, my face into my hands, and just sort of. So I rebooted everything, and for now, seems to be working. The laptop seems to be working a little faster since I rebooted. Hopefully, I'll be able to show you some clips. It's probably going to be a little inelegant, me switching back and forth to bring them up because the laptop is indeed slow. Again, trying to bring you the clips, and again, the computer, even though I was just connected on both of them, just said cannot connect to the room for some reason. So I am going to retry that. Hopefully that will work because I wanted to start off with a clip, get some cups. But hey, how is your mental health doing today? Mine's okay. Yeah, yeah. I listen. I am frustrated in the moment. I will not lie, because for some reason this keeps on happening to me on days when we have big news stories, right? And I'm trying to get out there and get the stuff out, and with clips or with a good show that seems seamless, and then everything breaks down. And I don't know why this is like the third time when there's like a really big news story, like either a defection or I think the day that Christopher Freeland wrote that letter, nothing would start here either, and it was just god. So there is really big news today. It's some cups. Pardon me, I have to sneeze. Oh, normally they come in threes. This one came in fours. Excuse me while I grab a Kleenex here and wipe my hand. Oh boy. Okay. So, yeah, it's been a morning here so far. But as you can tell, I am in good spirits because for those of you who didn't see my socials, yeah, bless you, that looked like a good one. It did. It shook me. I kind of moved forward. um, Yesterday, I regaled you about my story of woe from the previous day, in which I had lost seemingly my bus pass and my wallet. Well, there's an update on that. Yesterday, as I was getting ready to come to the Ottawa Beaver Lodge, I have uh, a place, uh, a smoking room, sort of, so to speak, or it's not really a smoking room, but a place outside the house where I sometimes do some work. Uh, where when my beaver sweetie, because he has a hearing impairment, sometimes me listening to things out loud distracts him. So I go to another place, either in the garage or the shed, and I do some work over there for the show because I don't like having headphones in all the time and sound blasting right directly into my head. So in that space, my beaver sweetie had asked me, did you go check there? And I said, yes, I did actually check there. And there was something I needed in there to bring here. So I went there and I said, for shits and giggles, let's just look one more time. And in there, because it's inside, but it's not heated. I have a couple of blankets, a little space heater in case I need it. If it gets a little cold, yeah, my beaver den. Yes, exactly. I have a beaver den. That's a good way to put it, kids and cubs. Uh, so yes, and I went to check one more time, and turns out that it had fallen. My wallet had fallen out of my pants pocket onto the chair onto which I was sitting, and since I had some blankets, had actually managed to slide itself under the blankets. So, as I told you yesterday, it's probably under something because I'm a man. and men never lift anything up. So I always hear my mother's voice in my head. It says, "Men never pick anything up." Whenever I lose something, so then I start picking things up, and usually, lo and behold, it's under something. So I found the wallet, and so that was good news. So I unlocked all my cards and all that kind of stuff. I knew it was at home. I knew, like, that's why I was thinking, maybe I lost it when I was shoveling snow, because the last time I used my wallet, I was at the curling club to buy a ticket for the Christmas dinner for the men's league, and then my skip drove me home, and I hadn't left the house since. So I knew it wasn't lost. I knew it was misplaced. But then I thought, oh yeah, what if when I was shoveling, it was in my coat pocket and the pocket was open, and it falls in the snow and you don't hear it, you don't see it, and now you've shoveled it and it's somewhere, and you might find it in the spring. um, so I needed to grab a cab to the bus for my ride here. And as I was exiting the front door, my neighbor next door, who has the children to whom I donated my snow on the first day that it snowed, because it was light and fluffy and they wanted to build forts and stuff like that. Well, turns out he was outside as I was getting into the taxi cab and mentioned that they had found my bus pass. Apparently, as I assumed, that's the one that fell out when I was walking to the bus stop, or running to the bus stop. Most likely running to the bus stop, and they found it. So it fell, a couple steps from home, and they put it in an envelope and they put it in my mailbox. So both the bus pass and both the wallet have returned. Yay! Yesterday was a very, very good day. And then I was thinking, um, you know, I had found the bag at the bus shelter the same day I thought I had lost my bus pass, and I had returned it, and I had donated the snow to the kids 2 days before. And turns out that, well, the family to whom I had donated the snow found the bus pass, and maybe because I picked up the bag and returned it, karma made it such that I relocated my wallet. So a friend of mine, uh, I call him Z, uh, uh, is a Buddhist monk, and actually said that and in combination with the fact that, even though when it happened, I was clearly, upset in in the moment, but didn't let it overtake me and just pretty much resigned myself to, oh well, what you got to do. Said, well, that was very Buddhist of me, apparently. So there you go. Uh, I'm finding my zen, apparently. So my mental health, despite this morning's frustrations, is actually really rather good. A god awful day turned into a great day. Now, if I could only find a way to go back in time and reverse a six ender in curling, then that god awful day would be perfect. But I think that might be a little too much to ask. So yeah, I'm feeling good. Kits and Cubs, the god awful day that I took like water rolling off my back, turned out to the next day be a great day. So there you go. Right? Sometimes things aren't as bad as you think they are. Some early words of wisdom. Okay, Kits and Cubs. Kit Sasi, I prefer Buddhism because Buddhism is still fairly misogynistic. To be totally honest, I don't know that much about either. So, uh, but I like the concept of yeah, my friend who's a Buddhist monk. I talk to him often, because sometimes you're stuck and you just need a different perspective. And I'm having a lot of problems with the no expectations part. I'm a very impatient optimist. Excuse me, kids. I'm just gonna take the camera off for 2 seconds because post sneeze, I need to wipe my nose, and I don't think we need to share that much. So give me 2 seconds, and I'll be right back. And we're back. All right. Kits and Cubs, let's get into it if we can. Um, a little bit of good news to start the show, if I'm able to hook this up for us here. Um, we mentioned that there had some labor action with air transit, and we reported during all of that that management seemed to be a little upset with the move to go into uh, this sort of job action because it didn't whoops, sorry, I have
Whoops.
to
Sorry,
there is
I
a
have
double
to.
sound coming all of
There
a sudden.
is a double.
Try. I've got some weird stuff going on today. I'm so sorry, kids and cubs. I have no idea how to fix this. This is very frustrating today. Okay. So yes, the management said that that type of reaction didn't reflect the talks, and the talks did seem to be going on very well. So we have some resolution in the air transit, and hopefully, if everything goes well, I will be able to bring you um, a news clip about that. So cross your fingers with me, kids and cubs, and hopefully, oh god, again the double sound has started. Uh, Sorry, kids and cubs. It's a very rough day. Okay, let's try that. So yeah, I'm going to try and run a clip. Kids and cubs, you'll have to let me know if the sound is working for this, because this is the first time I'm trying this way. Like I said, I'm MacGyvering stuff. So hopefully this will work. And apparently um, the computer is refusing me yet again. So it will not work. Okay, so I'm going to have to bring up the information in some other way. I am so sorry, kids and cubs. I am really trying very hard today. But the universe is just not cooperating with me. And now the page is not responding. So not the best today. But the good news is that the air transit uh, issue has been resolved. Management and the pilots union have indeed reached a deal, and even though there had some moves had started to cancel some flights and to get people back home when they didn't know exactly um, what was going to be happening over the next few days. But it seems that they have come to an agreement, and that for those of you who are looking to go south and haven't made your travel arrangements, well, now you have another carrier available to you that you may not have had, or you might have had doubts about a couple of days ago. Um, Again, I'm trying to look for a story for you, kids and cubs, so I can bring you more details about the deal. But I am having a lot of trouble once again. I'm s- it is very frustrating to have a whole show prepared and not being able to deliver it to you in the way that I would really like. And that is worthy of you as an audience, kids and cubs. I am really doing my best, but it's not easy today. All right. According to CBC, when it comes to Air Transat, and this is carried by CBC, but according to the Canadian press, actually, Air Transat passengers breathed a sigh of relief Tuesday evening after the company reached a tentative deal with its pilot union, narrowly avoiding a strike on the cusp of the busy holiday travel period. Transat AT Incorporated, which owns the leisure airline, found common ground with Airline Pilots Association just 8 hours before the union's strike deadline. The travel company immediately sought to start ramping up Sun flights after canceling at least 18 trips scheduled for Tuesday and Wednesday, in a precautionary move that affected thousands of travelers. Neither the company nor the union, representing around 750 Air Transat pilots, released details of the tentative agreement, which the membership will vote on in the coming days. Annick Guérard, Transat president and CEO, said the airline, quote, greatly preferred to avoid the threat of a work stoppage. Quote, we are aware that this period has created significant uncertainty, and we extend our sincerest apologies to our customers whose flights were disrupted in recent days, she said in a statement on Tuesday evening. Our priority now is to quickly restore our operations and deliver our commitment to provide service that meets our standards. The Airline Pilots Association, or the ALPA, sought a new agreement that boosts wages, job security, and quality of life following big gains for aviators Air Canada and WestJet over the past 2 years. Captain Bradley Small, chair of the Air Transat ALPA Master Executive Council, said the current pilot contract lags behind industry standards in North America. Quote, we believe this new agreement meets the needs of today's profession, consistent with collective agreements other ALPA-represented pilot groups are signing with their employees, Small said in a statement. The showdown comes at a particularly fraught time for the airline as it struggles to manage a large debt load, turn an annual profit for the first time since 2018, and fend off a coup attempt from an activist investor. Last week, media mogul Pierre-Carl Pelado, who owns 9.5% of Transat, its second biggest shareholder, demanded a board shakeup and strategic overhaul. The proposal would see Pelado's head of telecommunications giant Quebecor Incorporated replace Transat chair Susan Kutzman, and Pelado also gaining a seat on the board. Meanwhile, Transat's flight schedule was severely disrupted this week after it began to cancel flights in anticipation of a possible work stoppage. By Tuesday afternoon, the Montreal-based company had suspended routes to sun destinations in Mexico, the Dominican Republic, Peru, Spain, as well as London and Paris. All 18 flights were slated to either take off or land in Toronto or Montreal. Passenger Adrian Russo said he was relieved to be returning home from a getaway as scheduled and without any delays Tuesday. Quote, the last few days we were stressed out, but we're glad to be back home today, he said. The timing could have hardly been worse for an airline known to cater to sun-thirsty travelers in the winter months. Quote, the union and pilots know this is a very difficult time for airlines. This is where they made a lot of their money, said Geraint Harvey, an employment relations professor at Western University. The aircraft is full. If you have to cancel those flights, that is incredibly problematic. The carrier's active fleet of nearly 40 planes carries tens of thousands of passengers on more than 500 flights each week. ALPA issued a 72-hour strike notice on Sunday. Transat said a potential strike or lockout could have started as early as 3 a.m. on Wednesday. But no strike. So there you go. All of you having plans to go to sun destinations, well, you can rest easy, especially if you've got tickets for Air Transat. And for those of you who are looking to buy, well, now Air Transat is an option again. Very glad that they were able to get to that agreement without too much strife and too much disruption, even though there clearly were disruptions. Other good news from the corporate world, if one would like to call it that, comes from Canada Post. Recently, it had put out a statement that about its projections for its future. And a lot of people are wondering because the company has been, or the Crown Corporation has been not declared, but everybody's saying that for all intents and purposes, it is insolvent. They're providing an update because, they have made some big changes and they're giving some forward projections. Let's put it that way. So according to Ari Rabinovich in Global News, as Canada Post continues to lose more than $1 billion this year amid ongoing labor disputes and negotiations, the CEO says the Crown Corporation aims to break even by 2030. This comes after Canada Post submitted plans to overhaul its business last month to Government Transformation, Public Works and Procurement Minister Joel Lightbound, which included a list of key measures aimed to help reduce costs and modernize operations. President and CEO Doug Ettinger spoke at the House of Commons Government Operations Committee on Thursday in Ottawa and was asked by Conservative MP Tamara Jansen if and when the plan submitted to the federal government in November would see Canada Post become financially sustainable. Quote, "It's an ambitious plan, and we've shaped it around the minister's announcement on the 25th of September, as well as our knowledge of the industry and so on, and it gets us to break even by 2030, Ettinger said in response. In September, Lightbound announced Canada Post would be allowed to end door-to-door mail delivery to individual addresses and close or convert store post offices as part of their broader plans to restructure the company. Some of the other measures Canada Post outlined as part of the restructuring plans, which Ettinger repeated at the committee meeting, included increasing the use of community mailboxes and expanding mail delivery standard timelines for letters. Canada Post said last month it had lost over $1 billion so far this year as the ongoing labor disruptions led to lost revenue from service demand that was scooped up by the competition. This also comes after the company was given $1 billion in federal loans near the start of 2025. Ettinger was also asked if the 2030 timeline given at the committee hearing would include paying back some or all of those loans. Ettinger did not provide a clear response. Quote, "We're going to need to invest in the company over the next few years in order to do the things that we need to do to make the changes that are going to reduce our costs and that are going to give us a more competitive position in the marketplace vis-a-vis our competitors. And so there's going to have to be some investment over time," said Ettinger. The minister made it clear that these bailouts or injections have to stop. And by the way, I 100% agree with that. They need to stop as soon as possible. Canada Post and the Canadian Union of Postal Workers announced in November that the two sides had reached an agreement in principle, but no details of the potential agreement have been revealed as negotiations continue on hammering out the final terms for workers to vote on. So there you go. A little bit of extra news and some good news there. The labor action, it seems that because there was some labor action for a while, that they have reached an agreement in principle. Again, with Air Transat, these details are not yet made public, but it looks like things are positive, and getting that assessment from Mr. Ettinger that it looks like the Crown Corporation would break even, again, if this plan survives first contact, by 2030, is actually rather positive news, and actually quite a quicker turnaround than I expected, considering the depth of the problems as they have been explained. Although 5 years is still a significant amount of time, but I just assumed that things at Canada Post were so bad that it might have been a 10-year turnaround project rather than a 5. So from my perspective, this seems like good news, but maybe people who know more about this industry would be able to give a much better assessment. Get some cups. I'm going to go off camera again for another second just to wipe, but I will be right back very soon. Thank you for your patience. And we're back. Thank you. I should have like these tiny little commercials that I can put in when I need to do that. Again, I'm having trouble playing clips, so that wouldn't really actually help me out today, now would it? Oh well, we keep moving on. All right, kids and cubs. Those were, oh yes, there was one more little tidbit before we get into the big stuff today. And now my beaver sweetie wants to call me when he knows I am doing a show. But this is my life today. All right, kids and cubs. The other bit of news today has to do with our friends in British Columbia and with the weather going on there. As you know, yesterday we were talking to you about an atmospheric river that had hit the region of Abbotsford and, of course, other regions of the province. And there had been some evacuation orders. So It seems that there was still more weather yesterday that was causing some disruptions in the area. Yeah, things are not yet through over there, and you might want again to exercise some care and caution. I'm looking to see if there are more news stories about this specifically that I can bring you a bit of an update. Uh, and the best I've got here is from the Weather Network. So let's go there. But it is 7 hours ago. So this is as of 8:25 p.m. yesterday. Flood-prone areas across British Columbia could see additional issues this weekend as a fresh atmospheric river moves into the region. Another atmospheric river aiming for the west coast late this weekend will provide little time to recover from this week's flooding across portions of British Columbia. Some communities in southern BC are dealing with flood warnings, evacuation orders, and evacuation alerts as waterways continue to rise through the region. Residents are advised to stay alert of rapidly changing conditions and heed the advice and orders of local officials. Uh, we're in a brief respite from the heavy rainfall right now, but plenty more is on the way in the coming days, says the Weather Channel. Showers will move across the south coast through the day Friday, ahead of heavier rain that's expected to arrive late Saturday. Precipitation will grow even heavier through the day on Sunday. Forecasters are closely watching a strong plume of moisture originating near the Hawaiian Islands that will push into the west coast on Sunday and Monday. This type of atmospheric river is commonly called a pineapple express, which makes it sound that it should come with a lovely drink and an umbrella, right? Instead of all of this rain. This new arrival is forecast to be a strong AR3 to AR4 for the BC South Coast and Washington. For context, the region's most recent atmospheric river was also rated an AR3 to AR4. Given the influence of this approaching atmospheric river, it is likely that Sunday and Monday will bring the highest rainfall rates and totals to the region. Two-day totals across the lower mainland will range from 80 millimeters on the coast to 150 millimeters in the Fraser Valley and the Coast Mountains. That is a lot of rain. I'm looking at a map here from the Weather Channel, and it has colors depending on the amount of rain that's going to fall. And blue is 2 millimeters, green is 5, and I'm seeing lots. It goes from blue to purples, and when it gets to the reds and the very light sort of lilac, that's 100 and 200 millimeters rainfall accumulation expected between now and through Monday. And most of everything that is west of Lillooet and Lytton and Merritt looks like it's going to pick up 50 millimeters at least. And when you start to get to the Hope region, it looks like 75. When you get into the Whistler region, it's 100 millimeters. And when you're getting to just outside the Tofino area, up to 200 millimeters. So that's a that's a lot in a short period of time. Additionally, totals on the order of 80 to 100 plus millimeters are possible down in Washington, whose streams and rivers run north into BC. This could bring further flood impacts to areas already experiencing flooding issues in the Fraser Valley. Temperatures running as much as 5 degrees above seasonal will contribute to melting mountain snow, adding runoff to waterways that are already swollen from the excess precipitation of late. Oh God, that's the last thing these people need. The significant avalanche threat will persist across higher elevations as freezing levels climb near 2,000 meters into the weekend, which will further destabilize the region's snowpack. Wow. And the images are spectacular of the rain and just the accumulations and just how torrential it is. Wow, that is impressive. I'm going to go to the flood warnings specifically. This is updated as of 7:37 a.m. this morning, so a more recent update here. City of Abbotsford warns water could keep rising overnight as Fraser Valley remains under flood warning. Floodwaters reached Highway 1 in Abbotsford, located approximately 70 kilometers southeast of Vancouver on Thursday night, prompting new evacuation orders for 7 properties close to the highway as water began spilling onto the roadway. Those orders come on top of evacuations already affecting the region. Nearly 460 properties have so far been ordered to leave, and another 1,069 properties remain on evacuation alert in Abbotsford. The city says the flooding has forced the closure of Highway 1 in both directions between Sumas Road and Number 3 Road. Drivers are being asked to avoid the area and check Drive BC for updates as conditions continue to change. Images posted online show long lines of vehicles trapped in congestion along that stretch of the highway. Province says highway traffic will detour via Highway 7. Earlier in the evening, the city said floodwaters in the Sumas Prairie in Huntingdon Village are expected to peak within 12 hours. Based on modeling and data from the 1990 flood, water was anticipated to reach Highway 1 late Thursday or early Friday. As a result of the flooding, the Abbotsford School District says all schools will be closed on Friday. Abbotsford declared a state of local emergency Wednesday night with 371 properties in Sumas Prairie under evacuation order and another 1,069 properties on evacuation alert. It has expanded its evacuation orders earlier Thursday to include an additional 82 properties in Huntington Village. The Claiborne Village evacuation alert has since been lifted. The Regional District of Okanagan, I'm going to have trouble with this one. The Regional District of Okanagan, Similkameen, declared a state of local emergency on Thursday evening as water levels rose in several rivers in its jurisdiction. The district has further issued evacuations orders for 2 properties close to the Similkameen River in Princeton, British Columbia, along Highway 3. Orders are also in place for the Chopaka electoral area in rural Coston, British Columbia, an unincorporated community southeast of Princeton. It isn't clear at this time how many properties have been affected by this order. An evacuation order for the Princeton Municipal Campground is now in place due to rising water. The district is urging anyone in the area to leave immediately. Drive BC has updated its list of highway closures and reopenings after all major routes out of the Lower Mainland were closed on Wednesday. The following major highways are still closed as of 9:45 p.m. Pacific Time yesterday. Highway 1 from Highway 9 to Hope is closed to eastbound traffic. Highway 1 near Abbotsford is closed between Highway 11 and Number 3 Road. Highway 11 to the Sumas border is closed to commercial traffic in both directions. Highway 3 from Hope to Princeton is closed due to debris on the highway, and Highway 8 is closed except for local traffic. And these highways have been fully or partially reopened. Highway 5 Coquihalla between Hope and Merritt has reopened following flooding at Sowakwa. Highway 7 has fully reopened following a rock slide. Highway 1 has reopened from Yale to Lytton, and Highway 99 has reopened from Mount Currie to Lillooet. Dave Campbell with the BC River Forecast Center says up to 150 millimeters of rain has fallen since the atmospheric river made its way into the region Tuesday night. The summary from Environment Canada says 140 millimeters of rain fell at Hope Airport on Wednesday, 125 at Cultus Lake, and 110 at the Chilliwack Airport. That's a lot, with potentially up to 200 more to come. Campbell says another atmospheric river is expected to bring more rain to the region, but it was unclear at this point if it would further affect the current flood situation. There have been no reports so far of catastrophic flooding like what was seen in 2021, but officials say that could still occur. Chilliwack Mayor Ken Popove told CBC's Early Edition Thursday morning that he had not heard of any major flooding damage in his area. Quote, fingers crossed that things are going to be okay for us out here. Campbell said it would be well into Thursday evening before water levels in Washington state rivers drop enough that they stop pushing excess flow north into Canada. Quote, the impacts of that could really persist through the evening and into tomorrow, he said. Washington state was under a state of emergency Thursday morning from a barrage of torrential rain that has sent rivers flowing over their banks, caused a mudslide to crash down on a highway, and trapped people in floodwaters. Tens of thousands of residents could face evacuation orders there, according to local officials. After days of seemingly unrelenting heavy rain, Governor Bob Ferguson declared a statewide emergency Wednesday night, warning, quote, lives will be at stake in the coming days. Some residents have already been ordered to higher ground, with Skagit County, I'm not sure how you pronounce that, a major agricultural region north of Seattle, ordering those with the Skagit River's floodplain to evacuate. Amtrak trains between Seattle and Vancouver have been suspended. Flood watches and high stream flow advisories are also in place across much of the southern portion of British Columbia. So this article, this was information that was written by Chad Pawson and originally published for CBC News, and I used some files from the Associated Press and CBC is the early edition, and then was brought to us by the Weather Network. So if you're out there, please do take care and pay attention. And again, listen to all the evacuation orders. Please consult Drive BC. And again, if you are in an area where you're evacuating and you happen to have either not much access to bandwidth or low battery, remember there is CBC Lite, CBC LITE. Go there. It is a low bandwidth website, no images, no video, nothing like that, so that in case you need to remain in contact with information coming from official sources, and you have either not a lot of bandwidth or not a lot of battery, this is a way that you can remain in contact and still, maintain some of that in case you need it for emergencies. All right. So those were the three sort of housekeeping things that I wanted to mention. Now let's get into the good stuff, the stuff we came here for today, because kids and cubs, as you know, the Christmas season is coming. And what every good Christmas needs? A little family drama. Ooh, and we have drama for you, kids and cubs, and it comes courtesy of the Conservative Party of Canada. Yes, indeed, kids and cubs. As you know, there have been some issues going on within the Conservative Party of Canada. We have brought you some of that. A lot of it has to do with the way that the party is being led. These are long-standing problems because we had Jenny Byrne there first, and well, we know that she is a lovely, warm, and charming person with a delightful and not prickly at all personality. And same goes for Pierre, right? So the way that they had been running their shop had been really rough. Not allowing MPs to fraternize with people from other parties, making sure that they're saying the right media lines, having their time in the House of Commons cut, if not, being disregarded at meetings, if not, system of rewards and punishments for never, ever, 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 under any circumstances, undercutting the leader. Your movements being monitored, who you're talking to being monitored by staffers and being reported back, all that kind of stuff. And then we had the election campaign, and we saw what happened with the media, locking them up in the pen and not having them follow the campaign. And then Pierre and the Conservatives blew that campaign, and Pierre lost his seat. And then Pierre promised that he would change, that he would learn from this, and then proceeded after that, because the election was in April, and I'm sure that video came out either in late April or early May, and here we are in December, more than 6 months, and there's been no change. There's been no change whatsoever. So I'm not sure why Pierre promised he would change, and through there we've seen a couple of other moments where it's okay, yeah, this time he's really going to change, and no, the changes didn't come. And well, there were rumors and talks about people grumbling in the party all along because they didn't like this method of discipline. But hey, Pierre was over 20 points up, and it looked like he was going to deliver everyone to the promised land, like Stephen Harper did, to give that Conservative majority. So everybody sat there and took it. But then Pierre lost. And then in the world of politics, where you have carrots and sticks, and you've just lost an election, and people are going to be on the opposition benches for a while, they might start to get a little upset because you're sort of the carrots that you can offer are no longer as good. You can offer positions and critic positions in your party and certain portfolios that might be higher visibility, but you're not offering. You have no minister portfolios. You have, of that type. You can't make anybody an ambassador. You can't put anybody at the head of a commission unless it's something for your internal party. But internal party affairs, I should say. But otherwise, you don't really have much to offer. And with another election, being far away. Now, had the Liberals gotten a majority, it would have been 4 years away, and the grumbling probably would have happened a little faster. But it was a minority, and one that could be seen as a little tenuous. I mean, it's a solid minority, but you still have to find a dance partner or two and be able to bring things across the line. And uh, you know, there wasn't as much confidence that this particular minority would last as long as the previous one under Trudeau, or the one that Stephen Harper had, and Stephen Harper governed like he had a majority, even though that minority, and was able to pull that off. But over the last little bit, given that Pierre hasn't been changing and his tactics haven't been changing, and he's showing that he can't pivot, there are some people within the party who don't like what Pierre is doing, or are losing confidence that he is the guy that will be able to bring him to the promised land. So there are some people that are on the opposition benches who thought that they would be in government, who are looking at Pierre go since the election, and are pretty much doing the math and saying, if I stay with this guy and we go to another election, I'm just going to wind up in the opposition benches again. And maybe this time the Liberals will get a majority, and I'll be in the opposition benches for 4 years. And, if you're older in the Conservative Party, if you've been there for the past 10 years or so, you may not be too keen on another 4 years on the opposition benches. So you might want to decide that you want to spend more time with your family. Right? Or in the case of the Conservatives, you might decide that you want a new leader, given that there's a leadership review coming. And a little asterisk on this one. If Pierre happens to pass his leadership review, Pierre is still not out of the woods, because the Conservative Party of Canada, out of all the parties, is the party that has adopted the Reform Act to be able to be used within its own caucus. So you could have a situation where Pierre passes the leadership review, and then not too long after gets dumped by his own caucus. So the fact that he might pass his leadership review, or people are considering it given, doesn't still mean that Pierre will still be around when the next election comes. Just wanted to put that out there because it's Christmas and I like to bring presents. All right. So then we had the situation that on budget day, Chris D'Entremont, a little bit of loose lips, sink ships type of thing, let it slip that he would be considering a move to the Liberals, and well, he did make the move to the Liberals on budget day. And of course, the Conservatives lost their mind. He's a traitor, he's a this, he's a that, and all those other things, thus proving Chris D'Entremont right as to why he should move. And then we had Matt Genereux, who it seems had a beating with Prime Minister Carney, and it seems, according to word on the tweet, was looking to cross over, and then ultimately decided that he wasn't going to cross over, but he is resigning, and he hasn't been heard from since. Pretty much, he's not showing up to caucus meetings, he's not showing up for votes, he's not doing anything, but he is retaining his seat until sometime in the spring, which conveniently happens to be after Pierre's leadership review. Clearly, this was a move that the party negotiated with him. Somehow, again, there are rumors out there that he may have been threatened, because it has been in the press that a lot of the attitude within the Conservative ranks is, you do something to harm us and we will end you, politically speaking, or end your career, because we have collected opposition research on you and we are going to use that to keep you in line. Word on the tweet says. So Matt Genereux decided not to cross the floor, but also decided to resign, but not right away, not until after the leadership review, because for Pierre, going into the leadership review with 2 MPs having quit his caucus would have been really bad. And if Matt Genereux had quit at that time, Mark Carney, who has said he's not playing games with by-elections, probably would have called one quickly. And it is a by-election that the Conservatives could lose, because Genereux only won the seat by about 5%. Now it seems, because it's in Edmonton in Alberta, and that's Liberals are a little more competitive there. Now there's been some other polling that has come out since that says that on a generic ballot, Conservatives just versus Liberal, and no candidate name in that particular riding, if an election were to be held today, that the Conservatives would win it by about the same margin. So That's not necessarily guaranteed that it could go Liberal, but let's say, quality of candidates and campaigns matter and it can go Liberal. Well, then Pierre would be going into a leadership review, down one cabinet minister across the floor, and then down a seat, having freshly lost a by-election. That probably wouldn't be good for his leadership prospects, so therefore Matt Genereux still technically has a seat in Parliament until sometime in the spring, but is not showing up for anything. So, and again, let's remind you that Matt Genereux, in his resignation or in his step-down stuff, had felt the need to ask for people to leave his family alone. We don't know why he felt the need to ask that, but he did feel the need to ask that. I will not speculate. However, it seems that was a deal. Well, so Pierre clearly did not want to go into that leadership review having lost 2 seats. Well, kids and cubs, it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas everywhere you go. Now, as you know, the Conservatives thought that they had received a gift because Stephen Guilbeault, after the signature of that MOU, stepped away from cabinet. And you remember, Pierre had that moment, that press conference where he got snitty and started attacking reporters again and being snarky and saying, yeah, I bet you're all hanging out in front of the offices of Liberal MPs and chasing them down to cover the turmoil going on over there. Yeah, I mean, there is clearly some disagreement going on in the Liberal Party on certain things, but you will notice that the people who have disagreements with Liberal policies, such as Nathaniel Erskine-Smith or Stephen Guilbeault, have the chance to express their disappointment. Stephen Guilbeault, in particular, has been expressing it a lot, particularly in the province of Quebec. He's been going around all the talk shows and talking and talking and talking to the point that some pundits are wondering, should Mark Carney start to pull him back in because, you can talk a bit, say what your objections are, but if you're starting to turn it into a personal media tour, you might be doing more damage to the party. So he might want to pull on the reins a little bit. But Nathaniel Erskine-Smith and Stephen Guilbeault expressed opposition with certain policies, expressed how they think that those policies could be better, but both have said that they are clearly remaining in the party. So right now, and nobody has called them traitors within the party for having done that. Right? In fact, every time you're hearing somebody talking about Stephen Guilbeault, a lot of people are saying that, I really like him, he's a good friend, I've learned a lot from him, that type of stuff. So you've got the contrast in the two parties of how they deal with people who express a disagreement. Conservatives referring to people as traitors, and you have the Liberals going, well, what you going to do? We're a Big Ten party. But one party is showing that you can have differences of opinions and disagreement and express them and not have consequences, and the other one is showing that you can't. So there was speculation around budget time. Sorry, my nose is very itchy, and I've got hair there we go, that's tickling me. So when all of this stuff happened, there was a lot of speculation about who's going to be the next one and when will be the next one. And a lot of people were thinking, well, if one was going to do it, maybe on the day that the budget itself is being tabled and voted on, after they came back from that constituency week, that would be a very high impact time to make such a move. But no such move came. So everybody had thought that maybe Pierre and team had managed to successfully temper or tamper down the dissatisfaction within the party, and that would be it for resignations or for floor crossings for a while. Well, turns out that was not true, because yesterday, after the House had risen for the Christmas break, very strategically timed, the Member of Parliament for Markham-Unionville, the Conservative Party of Canada Member of Parliament for Markham-Unionville, decided he no longer wanted to be the Conservative Party representative in the House of Commons. He decided that he needed different shores to land on. He wanted to be with a different team that had different stuff going on, different goals, different objectives, different manner of proceeding. And therefore, a Mr. Michael Ma, M.A., announced yesterday that he is leaving the Liberal caucus and joining the Liberals. Ma said in a statement that he made the decision after listening to his constituents in the riding of Markham-Unionville in the Greater Toronto Area. Quote, "This is a time for unity and a decisive action for Canada's future," he wrote. Quote, "In that spirit, I have concluded that Prime Minister Mark Carney is offering the steady, practical approach that we need to deliver on the priorities I hear every day while door knocking in Markham-Unionville." Yeah. This is news, of course, brought to us by Darren Major of CBC. A Liberal source told CBC News that Ma met with Carney Thursday afternoon before announcing that he would join the government caucus. Ma's move comes just a few weeks after Chris D'Entremont also left the Conservatives to join the government benches. The new addition to the Liberal caucus means that Carney is one seat away from a majority government. One seat more. One seat more to a majority, and then maybe we'll say au revoir, pipi. They've got me singing show tunes. And appropriately, it's Les Miserables. I won't say which party I'm referring to when I say that. Oh my. Yeah, Carney was introduced Ma at the Liberals' holiday party on Thursday night, and that's the clip that I so wanted to show you. Because Mark Carney was definitely showing his sense of humor. And again, you have the juxtaposition, right? Like I can see there was no split screen, but I can see in my mind the split screen, right? Particularly, and here's the thing, and somebody made a comment saying that Ma really knows how to max the Christmas party thing, because it would appear that on Wednesday night, Ma was at the Conservative Party of Canada's Christmas party. And it would seem that he was having a relatively good time while he was there. In fact, there was one member of Parliament from the Conservative Party of Canada, and again, my computer is being very slow because I was hoping to be able to draw it up and, seamlessly bring this to you. But there was a member of an MP from the Conservative Party of Canada who had noted that Ma appeared to be fine at the Christmas party the night before. So Ma was at the Conservative Party Christmas party, Conservative Party Christmas party. Wow. This Conservative Christmas party on Wednesday night, dancing, maybe having a drink, sharing some laughs. And the next day, sauntering in to the Liberal Party of Canada's Christmas party in being introduced to everyone to a huge hero's welcome. And the sound of the applause was really loud. Party was very, very, very happy. Ma, a man of few words, didn't have much to say, was invited onto the stage to speak for a little bit. And, basically pretty much, wished everyone Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. And, looks like 2026 is going to be a good year type thing. But yeah, very, very happy. It was Jeff Ballingall who mentioned this, but I don't think he's the MP. He's a journalist. It's nice that Michael Ma found the time to attend the Christmas Conservative Party last night, and it was Stuart Benson, I believe, of the Hill Times, yes, who had noted, "This is how you reception max crossed the floor just in time to catch the LPC Christmas party tonight. Oh man. According to Marco Vigliotti of iPolitics, was able to find, well, not able to find, but shared the Liberal statement from Michael Ma saying that he is leaving the party to join the Conservatives. And here it says, I'm not sure if they're showing all of it here. Statement from MP Michael Ma. Today, the Liberal Party issued the following statement from Michael Ma, Member of Parliament for Markham-Unionville. Quote, after listening carefully to people of Markham-Unionville in recent weeks and reflecting with my family on the direction of our country, I have informed the Speaker and the Leader of the Opposition that I will be joining the Prime Minister Mark Carney in the Government Caucus. This is a time for unity and decisive action for Canada's future. I came to Canada at 12 years old as the youngest of 7, quickly learning the importance of hard work and resilience. Those values, building up others, delivering results, and choosing a path that creates opportunity, have guided me throughout my career in business and now as a Member of Parliament. Is there more? Yep. Or maybe there was more, and the same thing got posted twice. So I am just going to take a look here on Mr. Ma's account. Hopefully, I will find it. Nope, cannot find the rest. So again, thwarted by the computer again today, kids and cubs. I'm trying really hard. I'm trying really hard. So yeah, that's what happened here. I'm going to just go back to the article and see if there is more in there for you. So yes, Carney introduced Ma at the Liberals' holiday party on Thursday night. Quote, some of you, and I salute you, have been Liberals your whole life. Some may have joined our party, like literally just joined our party, he said before introducing Ma and bringing him on the stage. Ma received a standing ovation from the room before offering quick holiday well wishes to the crowd, as I mentioned. Conservative leader Pierre Poilièvre posted on social media shortly after Ma's announcement, saying the MP had gone back on his election promises. Quote, Michael Ma was elected as a Conservative by the constituents of Markham-Unionville to fight against liberal inflationary spending driving up the cost of living in his community. Today, he chose to endorse the very policies he was elected to oppose, Poilièvre wrote on X, or Twitter, or Jitter, I should say. The people he let down the most are the ones who elected him to fight for an affordable future. He will have to answer to them, and he will when the next election comes around, should he decide to run again. But here, I will note here that Pierre Poilièvre says that Michael Ma went against his promises to fight against liberal inflationary spending driving up the cost of living in his community. Maybe Michael Ma thought that the Conservatives didn't really have a credible plan or approach, given their childless and petulant and schoolyard behavior, to actually address that issue seriously, and decided he wanted to go to a party that was trying to do serious things. Maybe. And to the Conservative MP who posted, gee, I don't know what was the problem with Michael. He seemed to be fine at the Christmas party last night. Well, maybe that was the problem, wasn't it? None of you actually took the time or made the effort to get to know him or why he got into this well enough to notice that there was something wrong. Or worse yet, because this is a possibility in the Conservative movement, you did notice that he was unhappy and you just didn't. You just care. Right? I mean, if he seemed fine to you and he crossed the floor, then clearly you did not know he was not fine, which means you didn't really know him all that well. Perhaps. So yeah, and the thing with this one is that it's a big surprise because, again, according to word on the tweet, journalists talked to people when they said, that there were 2 more, 5 more, 10 more, 15 more, and then it got up to 20 that were, frustrated. Maybe not all of them were looking to cross the floor, but 20 of them had been publicly expressing frustration off the record, under the condition of anonymity to reporters to give them background. Apparently, Michael Ma was not one of these people. And apparently, nobody had any inkling that this was coming. Everyone was surprised. So, unlike Chris D'Entremont, who let it slip a little bit, in Mount Genereux, people found out, and then there was some type of pressure, we assume, some type of pressure campaign to prevent them from going to the Liberals and resigning before the leadership review, because, I mean, Mount Genereux is clearly checked out, right? Um, and basically, the Conservative Party of Canada is forcing all of us to continue paying salary and benefits to Monsieur Genereux in order to save Pierre's backside, all for the purpose of image, if that is indeed what is going on. We can only speculate, right? Um, but news of those got out. So no news whatsoever got out about Michael Ma. Caught everybody by surprise. So that would mean that if there were 20 grumbling, those 20 are still there because Michael was not on that list. That's probably not a good sign. It's a bad sign when somebody crosses the floor. It's not. It's less bad if it's someone. Oh yeah, well he's been like yammering on and complaining and whining or whatever throughout the party. For the past couple of months. Yeah, he was visibly unhappy. He left. All goodbye. As opposed to someone who never said a damn thing, didn't hint, didn't let it look on, didn't let it show on their face. Nothing. Just what? Deuces. Done. Had enough. That really sets some panic within the party because then it begs the question, are there any more? There are the people that have been vocal, and we know that they're frustrated, and we're giving them some attention, and trying to make them feel more part of the family or whatever, or giving them more responsibility, or like trying to hand out a carrot or two. But it's those who have just patiently watched and observed, and have decided, you know what, yeah, not for me. If there's one, there may be more. And if they are not self-identifying, you can't do anything to try to convince them to stay. Whether those things are above board or below the belt. Again, because with the Conservative Party of Canada, you can't put it past them. Yeah, I see there, Kit Crystal here. I'm the quiet quitter type of person. Yep. I'm more I'm more of the person that will stand and observe, and I will make a couple of suggestions here and there, about how things can improve, but like not be invested in them. And if those suggestions are repeatedly rebuffed, then yeah, just one day I just yeah, you know what? Thank you. This has been a slice, but I've decided I need a different challenge. But thank you. So yeah, um, said there's some panic within the Conservative Party of Canada, and I would fully expect that we probably will not hear anything from Pierre Poilièvre until the new year, unless it's something he's obligated to be at that is related either to Christmas or Hanukkah, where he can do the "Hey, we're here for a wonderful event. Let's not talk about that" type thing today, or just show up and light the candles on the first day of Hanukkah and then leave through the back door and not address media at all. Yeah, but I can see a situation like that. Uh, I could even see a situation where that persists up until the leadership review. But I mean, Pierre is going to have to be visible out there somewhere if he wants to campaign for that leadership review somehow. You'll even have Bob Fife, I think it is. I think it's Bob Fife stating outright that if Pierre gets anything less than 80% on that leadership review, he's done for. So Bob Fife starting to publicly set the bar. Also, in the news, one of the things that we've been hearing about Pierre's leadership review is that, oh, Pierre is absolutely solid. Nobody, he's going to be elected the leader again, no problem by the membership. Besides, nobody's challenging him. According to Mia Rapson, yesterday on Power and Politics, it's the first time I heard any inkling of this anywhere from any source. There might be one or two people who actually, if they see that Pierre is just imploding, might be willing to take a step up in that case. But clearly, we're not going to do it so long as Pierre was solid. They weren't going to make an active push to get the leader out. But if the leader appears to be slipping into a ravine unassisted, they might not be less. They might not be as hesitant to let their aspirations be known a little wider, maybe a little more publicly. It's the first time we hear that. Conservative MP Todd Doherty posted a photo on X of Ma and Poilièvre suggesting that the former had attended the Conservative holiday party on Wednesday, the night before his defection. That's the guy, Todd Doherty. Ma was elected as an MP for the first time in April. Markham-Unionville had previously been held by Liberal Paul Chiang, who was set to run for re-election in the spring, but withdrew from the race over comments he made suggesting that another Conservative candidate could be turned into the Chinese consulate to collect a bounty. I remember that during the election campaign, that disastrous Liberal candidate. So Michael Ma probably would not have won that riding in the first place had Chiang not opened his mouth and stuck his foot in it and decided to swallow. Probably put some salt on his foot before he decided to make it a little tastier. But before he ate it. But he's also not a long-time Conservative Party of Canada MP. He was brought in the most recent election. So more likely, like you said, when you're turning around and saying, hey, nobody saw it coming, well, it's not like he's got the deepest roots and ties with the party. He had just become an MP for the first time in April. He doesn't have a long loyalty to the party. I came in here, they promised they would be doing this. They're not doing this. This really sucks. You know what? I'm out of here. Bye. Wow. Ma secured just over 50% of the vote in his riding, beating Chiang's replacement, Peter Ewan, by about 3 percentage points. It was a close race. Rumors swirled in the days following d'Entremont's defection that more Conservatives would follow the Nova Scotia MP, but none had switched sides until Ma. There were suggestions that Conservative Matt Genereux could also cross the floor, but the Alberta MP abruptly announced in early November that he would be leaving politics altogether. Genereux hasn't officially resigned, but hasn't voted since his announcement. Conservative sources told CBC News at the time that Genereux said he was under pressure to stay from some in the party. A senior Liberal source confirmed that the MP met with Carney the week he announced his resignation. Genereux said coercion played no role in his decision to leave federal politics. I do not believe that for a second. Ma's defection came just hours after the House wrapped up the fall sitting, meaning MPs will be heading back to their ridings for 6 weeks. The House is scheduled to return in late January, just days before Poilièvre faces a leadership review, and will likely have to defend having lost a number of MPs as it approaches. d'Entremont said that he left because of Poilièvre's leadership style. In a statement on Thursday, Ma didn't mention Poilièvre other than to say he informed the Conservative leader that he would be leaving. And also, when he left, he dropped just a soupçon of shade behind him. Check out this sentence. I entered public service to help people to focus on solutions, not division. I look forward to working with Prime Minister Mark Carney. Ouch. The new House standings do give the Green Party with its one seat more sway in the House of Commons because now Elizabeth May is the swing vote. Leader and MP Elizabeth May could be enough to push Liberal legislation over the edge in the House, though she has expressed doubts about backing the government going forward. She has also come out afterwards saying, well, never say never, but, they'll have to make some big concessions to her. And I'm going to guess that there's going to be more trust, but verify if she decides to give her assistance to the Liberals one more time. Because right now she's not particularly inclined to do that. Yeah. So yeah, isn't that great? Oh my God. So yeah, the Liberals need one Ma. One seat Ma. In order to get to majority status. Really interesting because the other day, on the show, we are outwardly progressive or centrist, but nonpartisan. And well, from the show's account, I had tweeted something at one point just a few days ago, stating we need a liberal majority, and it's not. I wasn't stating that we need a liberal majority because we need liberals specifically in power, but more that we just need a majority. And it looks like liberals are the ones that are going to be able to make it happen. So therefore, I said a liberal majority, simply because Pierre was not being serious at all in any way, shape, or form. And then 2 days later, I think it was 2 days after I tweeted that, Ma crosses the floor. And the interesting dynamic here is that, the first one happens, and in this case, where the Liberals need three. The second one was always going to be the hardest one to get. The third one may not be as hard because the third one who crosses is the one that pushes the Liberals over the edge, gives them the majority. So therefore, number one, your name will be remembered forever in history. Much like Chrystia Freeland's name will be remembered forever in history, not so much for having been the finance minister or the first female finance minister, which is the case, and it should go down in history for that, but because she stabbed Trudeau in the front. Right? The person who would be the third, whether it comes from whichever party it comes from, but let's say conservatives, that person's name goes into the history books forever. That person tips the scales. That person will get a lot of press, a lot of profile. There might even be a reward other than being in caucus from the Liberals. That might not show up immediately, but down the line, because there's probably a cabinet shuffle coming at some point in the new year. Yeah. The third person to cross could be a little easier for the Liberals to get. Now, timing will matter. I personally think that the best timing for this would be Pierre going to the leadership review. And let's say Pierre is confirmed and he gets to retain his leadership. Then the day after, somebody goes, nope, sorry, not doing another 2 or 3 years with him, gone. That petty me would time it that way. But given that there might be a sweepstakes, might happen between Christmas and New Year's. Might happen for New Year's. Let's start the Liberals off with it. There are some timing days where this decision could be made by whoever the third would be that would have maximum impact. Michael Ma doing it pretty much the second after the House has risen for the Christmas break, therefore doesn't have to go back to the House and confront his former caucus mates that soon. That might also have had something to do with it. But doing it at that particular time is maximum impact. It becomes the story. I mean, it would have become the story no matter what, because, if it bleeds, it leads in media, and, well, the Conservative Party seems to be bleeding, and so does Pierre, specifically. So, but, right, at this particular, had he done it 2 days before, while we were still, had these shenanigans going on in the House, it would have still been the number one story, but it won't be a story that might play for 2, 3, 4, 5 days because there's nothing else coming from the House right now. So that is the story, and it is the only story out there at the moment, which makes the timing of this just peach juice is running down my arm. Delicious. Oh man, I'm loving this. Okay. We have Bob Fife the Knife, who doesn't have much love for Pierre Poilièvre, also decided to pipe in on this. And of course, bringing us some news that came from Angus Reid. Now, once again, I mentioned Angus Reid because usually when I talk about pollsters, I like to talk about the aggregate, but sometimes individual pollsters, because some of them tend to lean one way or another or are thought to lean one way or another, are interesting to look at. And Angus Reid is a pollster polling company that is suspected or thought of to lean a little more conservative. So when there are numbers that are unfavorable for conservatives that come from Angus Reid, people tend to look at them a little more, or Abacus, because it's sort of like, wow, that's kind of interesting that this particular polling company would be reporting that. So, according to Robert Fife here, future of the CPC, a declining majority of conservative voters would keep Poilièvre as leader in January. Most CPC voters believe party is in the right place politically, but others believe it is too far to the right. Like snow blanketing the country, a quieting has settled upon caucus rumblings over the leadership of Conservative leader Pierre Poilièvre. But as the days count down until the January Conservative convention and his leadership review is Poilièvre standing on solid ground or skating on thin ice? New data from the nonprofit Angus Reid Institute finds a majority, 58% of recent Conservative voters want Poilièvre to lead the CPC into the next election. But that majority has shrunk from the last time ARI asked this question in August, when it was at 68%. Again, kids and cubs, I'm going to let you enjoy that. In August, 68% of recent Conservative Party voters said that they would like Pierre to remain as leader. We're now in December, and now that is 58. He's dropped 10 points among Conservative voters in about 7 months. Not bad, eh? While Poilièvre has solidly captured the right side of the political spectrum, successfully minimizing the People's Party of Canada's support in the last election, it was not enough to secure enough seats to form government in the post-vote. It wasn't enough to secure enough seats to form government. In the post-vote post-mortem, Conservative pundits have discussed how the party needs to find, quote, 1 million more votes, on top of the 8 million plus which earns the CPC 41% of the popular vote. The issue in finding those additional votes may lay in the current size and scope of the CPC's vote universe. ARI asked Canadians whether they would consider supporting Conservatives in the next election and found 21% would definitely support the party. 14% would certainly consider it, and 22% would maybe consider voting CPC. That million boost will likely need to come from the maybe crowd. Poilièvre remains a popular figure among the definites. 92% have a favorable view, and 75% want him to stay on as leader. Again, the people that say that they will definitely vote Conservative, 92% of them have a favorable view of Pierre, but only 75% definitely want him to remain. So there are 17% who, despite the fact that they have a favorable view of him, still think that he's not the guy for the job. Ouch. Wow. But those who are wavering in their support of the party have more doubts about his leadership as well. The certainly consider crowd are divided as to whether or not they want Pierre to be the leader after January. 40% of them say he should stay, 38% of them say he should leave. And while the maybes want him to go, 61% want him to leave. The issue for the Conservatives is that the pool of right-aligned voters in Canada is smaller than the left or center of the political spectrum. One quarter, 27% of Canadians describe themselves as more right-wing or very right-wing. 34% say they are more left-wing or very left-wing, and the largest group, 38 of them, place themselves somewhere in the middle. Two-thirds, 64% of that plurality of Canadian centrists have an unfavorable view of Pierre. Most, 63%, believe he should be replaced as leader, and they are more likely to believe that the CPC is too far to the right politically, 38%, than in the right place on the political spectrum, 22%. So nothing is going well for Pierre Poilièvre at all. He's bleeding caucus members. He's bleeding support with his own base. He's bleeding support with people who are not the strongest in the base, let's say, but would still consider or are open-minded to considering the Conservative Party of Canada as an option, but he's slipping with them as well. Again, not necessarily the best situation, again, for a guy that keeps on talking about negotiating from a position of strength. There doesn't seem to be much strength there for him. So yeah, again, very difficult situation for the leader, and I'm not sad about that at all. He had it coming. You can only treat people like crap for so long before some of it starts to blow back. Yeah, there we go. And the Todd Doherty tweet that I had mentioned to you earlier, he said specifically, odd. He seemed to be fine as he posed for pictures and danced the night away at the conservative Christmas party last night. And there's even video of him on this tweet. I highly recommend that you take some time to check it out and get some cubs. If I am able to do that here, I might, uh, my computer might cooperate with me well enough to be able to at least include that in the chat for you. So hopefully I will be able to do that so you can check that out for yourself. So there you go, kids and cubs. Much drama within Conservative Party of Canada circles. Good news for the Liberals, as I mentioned, who are now one away from the majority that they so seek, one away from the majority that would be, that could be in the best interest of Canada as a whole and Mark Carney's plan, because that was one of the things I mentioned when the election results came in. It's like, oh, darn, it's not a majority. This is going to be tough for someone who has a plan, wants to move quickly, and is going to need to move quickly, considering the circumstances, and but having to negotiate everything. The thing also with the majority is that if Mark Carney is able to get it, that changes a lot of things at committee. At the moment, there's uh, certain committees that are chaired by MPs that are not from the Liberal Party because it's a minority parliament, and some bills are being severely rewritten or obstructed or stalled. If the Liberals get that one more vote, the compositions of the committees change such that the Liberals have the majority on each and every one of them. And that could definitely do a lot to stop the stalling of bills, because right now in the House of Commons, we're in a situation that's relatively similar to what we had for the last 6 or 7 months of Prime Minister Trudeau, where the government is trying to govern and the opposition, the official opposition, is refusing to provide their consent to be governed and basically acting, well, if we can't be the ones to govern, you can't govern either, and blocked and stalled absolutely everything. And it seems that the Conservatives are back to doing that again. So, as Canadians, if we do feel, um, if we are seized with the urgency of the moment, if the immediacy, the tyranny of the immediacy of now is such that we are focused and we really care about being nimble in making these moves and making these moves quickly and efficiently, um, as a public, we might not have a lot of patience for a party that's playing games, and therefore might be more inclined to give ourselves a majority government, not necessarily because we like liberals, but just because we're tired of schoolyard games. And right, plan beats no plan, as Mark Carney tells us. And so far, there's only one party that has a plan. It's again another situation, as I often say in French, le choix s'impose. The choice imposes itself. Right? If you're looking at the NDP, if you're looking at the Bloc Québécois, if you're looking at the Conservatives, and you're looking at the Liberals, there's only one party that's being somewhat serious. The Bloc Québécois showed up for the budget with a list of 10 non-negotiable demands that would add $36 billion at a time where we're trying to get operational spending back in line. That was not a serious offer. That's playing games much the same way that Pierre is. Blanchet is just not as much of a dick about it and isn't as smarmy about it. but he's a little haughty, right? Um, he's not interacting in good faith, and he's talking seemingly from a place of hurt feelings a lot. The conservatives are clearly uh, haven't accepted that they've lost. They keep on trying to bottom from the top, or top from the bottom, I should say. They keep on trying to govern from the opposition benches, even though nobody likes them because they can't play nice with they can't play nice with others, and they don't share their joys. So, um, and the NDP, well, they're in a leadership race at the moment, and not financially as strong as they could be. But none of these three parties are offering us policies, programs that meet the moment. The Canadian public, the ballot question, if we were going to an election, still is leadership. And we're only getting it from one source, at least leadership that's serious. And Pierre's not going to change that. So like I said, time to break out the lettuce or the cabbage, because he's not he's not it. Now, if he passes that leadership review, and like I said, he very well might, because he's got his thumb on the scale in terms of picking the delegates that will be going into Calgary, and of course, in Ontario, the Progressive Conservative Party is going to have its own sort of convention at the same time. So there's not going to be a lot of people from Ontario, I'm sure, that are going to be rushing to go out to Calgary to vote Pierre out. They would rather stay at their own event. And curiously, a little bit of news, it seems that the Ontario legislature has also risen, and that Doug Ford has given himself another 102 days off before the House will come back sometime in March. The legislature in Ontario has sat for only 51 days in 2025. Now, if you believe in the concept of never interrupting an enemy when he is imploding, and the word on the tweet about Doug Ford maybe really, really, really wanting to be prime minister one day is true, then what better way to not interrupt Pierre's implosion than by making sure that you don't return to the House until March, well after Pierre's leadership review is over. Looks to me like Doug Ford is um, yielding the floor, the entirety of the floor, so that Pierre can go kaboom. And then maybe Doug Ford plans to just step in and try to run for the leadership of the federal Conservative Party. Because I'm sure there's nothing that a guy like Doug Ford would love more than to be able to get his hands on a bigger public purse than the one he has access to now. Just saying. And perhaps Doug still has some debts to pay, because that Greenbelt thing didn't go through. He might be a little more efficient at getting them paid off, having access to the entire federal purse than just the merely provincial one. Maybe, perhaps. Speculation. All right, kids and cubs, let's see what else we have going on in the world of politics for you today, because there has been a lot of news, kids and cubs. This has been the biggest news, of course, because it is the BFD. Huge deal. But there are other things that have been happening. One of the things that happened, there have been a couple of good opinion pieces that have popped up of late. And one was by Robin Urbach, having to do with all of this. And I liked it a lot because finally some people are starting to say out loud some of the things that we have been saying on this show, um, unserious is a word that we have been using for Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives for quite a long time. And that is coming up a lot now. People talking about that the party is not serious, that type of thing. Hopefully that catches on because it really needs to be said and it needs to be said often. But Robin Urbach, uh, you know, who uh, I don't always agree with, not that I always agree with anyone, but, frequently critical. But every now and then, she drops a gem as well. And this one is one of them. Here. In another life, Pierre Poilievre would have been a lawyer. Well, maybe. The Conservative leader is very good at creating a narrative, at prosecuting his case, and at setting traps for wayward leaders of other parties. He did that roughly 1 year ago when he used the exact words articulated by then NDP leader Jagmeet Singh when he wanted to walk away from the supply and confidence agreement to craft a non-confidence motion against the Liberal government. The trap was that Mr. Singh and his party could either vote for the motion triggering an election they didn't want or vote against it, effectively repudiating Mr. Singh's own words. The NDP chose the latter, but the greater effect was negligible. Mr. Singh's reputation was already in the dumps by then. Mr. Poilievre is now 1 year older, but perhaps little wiser, as his party persists with the same cute legislative tricks that make his supporters smile but feed the perception of unseriousness that cost his party the last election. That perception also explains why Mr. Poilievre's personal support trails more than 20 points behind Mr. Carney's, though support for the parties is effectively tied. On Tuesday, the Conservatives tabled a motion using the exact language from the Memorandum of Understanding signed last month by Mr. Carney and Alberta Premier Daniel Smith. The motion called on parliamentarians to, quote, support the construction of one or more pipelines enabling the export of at least 1 million barrels a day of low-emission Alberta bitumen, and mentioned the duty to consult with Indigenous peoples, but its initial version stripped out a lot of the environmental conditions laid out in the original MOU. The Conservatives subsequently amended the motion to include some, but not all, of those environmental conditions, leaving just enough out to lay the foundations for the trap. If the Liberals supported the motion, they risked being accused of forsaking the climate conditions that make a new pipeline palatable to much of their base and beyond. If they rejected the motion, the Conservatives would accuse them of not actually supporting a new pipeline for Canada. In the end, the Liberals went with the second option. So what does this grand vote now reveal about the likelihood of a pipeline being built in Canada? Well, nothing. The Conservatives will insist the exercise has exposed the Liberals' ambivalence about a pipeline, but anyone with a pulse was already able to infer that from the resignation of Stephen Guilbeault from cabinet, the outward opposition from some Liberal MPs, the reported friction within the Liberal caucus, and Mr. Carney's waffling about the MOU creating, quote, necessary conditions, but not sufficient conditions, for a pipeline. The vote does provide fresh funding fodder for Conservatives, however, and a new talking point about the Liberals, quote, voted against a pipeline that will surely persist into the new year. Unfortunately, that has kind of been upended by Ma crossing the floor. The best laid plans. That might sow a little confusion among casual political observers, the majority of whom reported some awareness of the MOU immediately after it was signed. But those inclined to dig deeper will quickly learn that this was a stunt, which will not help Mr. Poilievre's reputational problem, and especially not when the Premier of Alberta, of all people, is smiling next to Mr. Carney and expressing her optimism about a pipeline. The whole endeavor makes it look as though Mr. Poilievre is playing games while Mr. Carney is trying to run a country. To be fair to Mr. Poilievre, it is very hard to oppose a government that is broadly pursuing actions that your party would otherwise support, such as cutting taxes and cutting pipeline deals with Alberta. But sometimes the best thing to do when your opponents are fighting amongst themselves and exposing their own vulnerabilities is to stand back and let them. Calgary Liberal MP Corey Hogan characterized the Conservatives' gimmick and Mr. Carney's subsequent reaction by saying, quote, the Prime Minister is a serious man for a serious moment and the Leader of the Opposition is not. Conservatives might not like that, but polling shows that Canadians broadly agree with Mr. Hogan's assessment. As long as it looks as though Mr. Carney is committed to building a pipeline, and we're talking about perceptions here, the Conservatives cannot win on the file. They can try setting traps or exposing the fine print or exploiting divisions within caucus, but there is a greater risk in the Conservatives making themselves looking petty or amateurish than there is in changing the public's perception of Mr. Carney's commitment to nation-building projects. The Prime Minister coming out and saying, quote, I support a pipeline, will always register louder than whatever noise the Conservatives try to make. The career politician ought to know that after 20 years in the game. Oh well, there's always law. Woo! Okay. Little spicy there. There was also a wonderful piece yesterday by someone who is known, well, I won't say wonderful piece, a notable piece by someone who is known to be a very, very, very big fan of the conservative movement, can usually be relied on to be writing something positive or to find the positive spin or positive angle that would help that side of the movement do better or be perceived better than it is, or at least positively. And he did not do that this time. This is from the Edmonton Journal, and it is a gentleman who we're talking about for the first time. We hadn't talked about any of his work until now, named Lorne Gunther. So if you are in the Alberta area, maybe this is a name that is familiar to you as a reader and a frequent reader of the Edmonton Journal. But the title of his piece is Poilièvre Conservatives Favor Stunts Over Substance and It's Hurting Them. I want the pipeline to the West Coast to succeed, and I want the federal Conservatives to knock off the Liberal government. So why do I agree with the Liberals that Tuesday's opposition moment in the Commons to get MPs to show support for the pipeline was a, quote, cheap political stunt and, quote, immature? Because it was. Ouch. That's the opening. On issue after issue, Canadian voters side with the Conservatives. On housing, immigration, inflation, defense, crime, and others, the Liberals have been forced to steal Conservative policies just to maintain their thin lead in polls. And here you can see by this choice of wording and phrasing that this is someone that is clearly in the Conservative camp. Even on a pipeline from Alberta to some port in northern BC, the Angus Reid Institute finds 60% of Canadians are behind the idea. So how come Prime Minister Mark Carney is as much as 15 points ahead of Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre in preferred Prime Minister polls, even though their parties are tied? The answer is partly in Tuesday's pipeline motion. The motion was clever. It took parts of the Memorandum of Understanding signed by Carney and Alberta Premier Danielle Smith on November 27th and converted them into a Commons resolution. The logic was that the Liberals dare not vote against their own MOU, but they did dare. Joined by the Bloc Québécois, the NDP, and the Greens, the final tally was 196 to 139. And there's a note for you kids and cubs every time you see the Conservatives saying, the Liberals voted against the pipeline, so did everybody else. But the Liberals did not vote against their own MOU. They voted against Pierre's version of a pipeline because he would not put the full MOU in the motion for people to vote on. It was a revised version where he cherry-picked stuff. And he had two opportunities to do it because he amended his own first one. And both times, he chose to refuse to include the full MOU. So Pierre and the Conservatives were voting non-confidence in their own non-confidence motion by not asking the House to vote on an MOU, on the MOU specifically. Every single word in it. Not a word more, not a word less, the actual word, the actual MOU. He would not do that. So it wasn't only Liberals, but the Bloc didn't like it, the NDP didn't like it, and the Greens didn't like it either. Other than the Conservatives, the House was unanimous that this motion should fail. So how could the Liberals vote down their own agreement? Because it was obvious to just about everyone, except maybe the Conservatives themselves, that this was a stunt. Political game playing, pure theater. The motion was also full of danger for the Libs. It could have hived off the government's, quote, Green Caucus from the rest of the caucus. Quote, the Green Caucus hates the MOU. It might have also further fractured Carney's cabinet. The day it was signed last month, the MOU caused well-known radical environmentalist. Again, you can see the tinge here. Heritage Minister Stephen Guilbeault to resign his portfolio. Ever since, Guilbeault has been on a tour of Quebec media outlets bashing the agreement and the cabinet he once served. If Carney had pushed his Liberals to support Poilièvre's motion, there might have been further defections. nearly 2 dozen. I find this I find this hilarious now in hindsight, given that there was another defection since, but it came from the conservative benches. But anyway, if Carney had pushed his Liberals to support Poilièvre's motion, there might have been further defections. Nearly 2 dozen Liberal MPs on BC's lower mainland are also said to be worried about losing their seats over the pipeline. And Quebec's 44 Liberal MPs know the Bloc used the Trudeau government's decision to buy the Trans Mountain pipeline to steal Liberal seats in Quebec in the 2021 election. The politics around West Coast pipelines is not limited to the West Coast. Who knows? The pipeline might also eventually cause New Democrats who voted Liberal in huge numbers during the Trudeau years to drift back to their old party. That would be good for the Conservatives, who almost never win Canadian elections unless the left is fractured. So the Carney government could see the trap the Conservatives were setting from a kilometer away. They didn't get sucked in. All of this comes back to the biggest single impediment to Poilièvre ever becoming Prime Minister. He's too satisfied with his own tricks, like the motion that turned the Liberals' own words back on them, and too pleased with sloganeering and sound bites over substance. And we showed that to you when he said, it's like, the Prime Minister wants a carbon tax without a pipeline, but he should want a pipeline without a carbon tax. And then he got into that skibby smile that he does, and then sat down. He was so pleased with himself. But everybody else, who actually wants a serious government that has a serious plan and wants to do serious things, roll their eyes at that. Poilièvre too often comes across as being the brightest sophomore in a university debating society. Again, we say this on this show all the time. On issue after issue, the Conservatives are more popular than the Liberals, and Carney has largely abandoned his elbows-up strategy against U.S. President Donald Trump, which had largely been a flop anyway. Again, more conservative-leaning editorial. The biggest draw for Carney in April's election was his perceived ability to stand up to Trump. No, not exactly that. There was that, but it was the fact that he was a serious person who actually thought about it and had a plan, and that we trusted him, based on his economic experience and track record to date, to actually implement that plan. Yes, whether we got to deal with Trump or not. The biggest draw for the biggest draw for Carney in April's election was his perceived ability to stand up to Trump. That advantage has largely evaporated, but too many voters don't see Poilièvre as serious enough to step in. Why? Because the overall issue, again, of reorienting our economy remains, whether there's a deal with the United States or not. Poilièvre will face a leadership review at his party's convention in Calgary at the end of January. He'll survive that one, but if his prankster image continues to hold his party back, he may be unable to survive the next one. And that next one may be a caucus revolt using the Reform Act as it's a way of doing so. There you go. There was one other one yesterday, maybe not yesterday, came out a couple of days ago, from Susan Delacourt from the Toronto Star. And this one, if you are a fan of the Hurly-Burly, for example, you might be a little familiar with it because it was on a recent episode of theirs. It was essentially their clip of the day, or their media clip of the day that they discussed. But here, again, Susan Delacourt, an opinion piece here, and I'm just going to bring it up. It's taking me a couple of seconds, but shouldn't be a problem once it does come up. And there it is. Looking at the broader chessboard here, Mark Carney's embrace of liberal enemies could be a good thing for all of us, she writes. Progressive-leaning folks are having a hard time watching Mark Carney link arms with the same forces that spent the past decade demonizing the Liberals. Whether it's making a deal with Alberta Premier Danielle Smith or playing to the bro culture with all the sports talk and walking back feminist foreign policy, it seems like the Prime Minister is determined to cozy up to the Liberals' old, harshest critics. Making enemies into friends may make political sense, but it may also make democratic sense, too. The level of toxicity in this country needed to be dialed back, not simply to improve Liberal fortunes, but to build some bridges between government and some of Canada's most disaffected citizens. Smith quipped last week that Justin Trudeau invented Alberta separatism, but the well of antagonism goes far beyond just one Liberal leader and stretches to the idea of Ottawa's legitimacy itself. Smith saw that last week at our own party's convention, where the mere suggestion of dealing with Ottawa got a cool reception from a large chunk of the crowd. Meanwhile, the rising hostility to liberals among men during the Trudeau years, young men in particular, was not in small part rooted in the conviction that government doesn't work for them and may well indeed be against them. None of this is healthy in a democracy. More than 3 decades ago, another Liberal government came to power and inherited a very grumpy citizenry. Ryan Mulroney had worn out his welcome with the voters, to put it mildly, and there was widespread, still simmering anger over the introduction of the hated goods and services tax. So great was the antipathy to the GST that people were not paying it. New Finance Minister Paul Martin quickly realized one of the largest problems on his hands was the underground economy, which he took not just as a threat to the country's coffers, but to the long-standing democratic deal between government and the governed. Quote, the underground economy isn't all smugglers. It's hundreds of thousands of otherwise honest people who have withdrawn their consent to be governed, who have lost faith in government, Martin said in 1993. Note the distinction. He saw it not simply as a tax revolt, but a revolt against government. Fast forward to another Liberal government coming to power during yet another wave of waning faith in democracy. As he was rebuilding the Liberal Party, Trudeau and his team drew heavily on what they were seeing in the Occupy and Idle No More movements, which were channeling powerful fallings out with the idea of government itself and its ability to grapple with wealth inequality and Indigenous reconciliation. Carney, it should be said, is going to have to deal with that dissent too. It hasn't gone away. But the number one job requirement for a prime minister is to keep alive the basic pact of democracy in which people consent to be governed. For progressives, that pact extends one step further to sustain the idea that government can be a force for good. The COVID-19 pandemic was an interesting look into how shaky that deal can be. In the early days, it was looking like the pandemic could breathe new life into all those notions of government as a force for good. Millions of Canadians relied on government giving financial relief and getting vaccines. But as it wore on, exasperation with vaccine mandates and pandemic measures started to be seen as an affront to liberty in many quarters. The so-called, quote, Freedom Convoy protests of 2022 put all that frustration on display, and it was evident that much of it was coming from the West and angry men, not exclusively in either case, of course. No matter who was going to be elected prime minister when Canada held its election this year, the lingering toxicity was going to have to be addressed. Even if Conservative leader Pierre Poilièvre had won, he would have soon found he was dealing with more than just unrest with Liberals, but with Ottawa itself. Just look at Smith, who has done her best to give vent to Alberta separatism in opposition to Ottawa, only to be confronting calls for her to be recalled. Put simply, once this kind of existential unrest in democracy has been whipped up, it's hard to rein it back in. Witness what's going on in Donald Trump's America, where there's a president who seems too happy to confirm citizens' belief that government is fundamentally corrupt. Many progressives are coming into the view that Carney is going overboard to appease the Liberals' old critics in a bid to steer the party back to the center. Maybe. But it could also be true that Carney is trying to do a democratic detox, trying to shore up the consent to be governed where it has been wavering in the most recent years, or where it has been wavering the most in recent years, I should say. So there we go. Three very good editorial perspectives on the overall situation that is going on at the moment here. A couple of tidbits before we sign off. Kits and Cubs, just wanted to mention a few things because it has been a very busy day of news. You know, in addition to Ma leaving the party, and of course the computer is not responding. Funny. Let's see. There are some change if you're traveling to the United States. There are some changes happening. Recently, they started taking pictures and fingerprints. Now it seems in a bid to punch itself in the dick again, the United States wants to kill all tourism to its country by asking people to submit up to 5 years of social media information, as well as stuff like the address of your family and your children and stuff like that, which seems really weird. According to Mark Golem of CBC News, a part of a continuing crackdown on U.S. borders, the Trump administration is now considering placing stricter requirements for entry on citizens of some visa-exempt countries. That would be us. The beefed-up regulations proposed by U.S. Customs and Border Protection would in part require visitors from those countries to submit 5 years' worth of social media information. The proposal is currently out for commentary period, meaning the public has 60 days to comment on it. Earlier this month, the U.S. paused all immigration applications from 19, quote, high-risk countries of concern. Here's a look at what the new proposals could mean for travelers heading to the U.S., including a small number of Canadians who might be affected. The new proposal, published Wednesday in the Federal Register, would apply to travelers from more than 3 dozen countries that are part of the Visa Waiver Program, the VWP, who submit their information to the Electronic System for Travel Authorization, or ESTA, if they want to visit the U.S. These countries include nations that have traditionally close ties to the U.S., such as Australia, France, Germany, Israel, Japan, South Korea, and the United Kingdom. The VWP, or the Visa Waiver Program, was established to make it easier for citizens of these countries, which are deemed lower risk, to enter the U.S. for tourism or business for up to 90 days without a visa. The lower risk designation was based in part on citizens of these countries having a historically low incidence of overstaying. As well, these countries share law enforcement information with the U.S., meaning their citizens can be screened for incidents of criminality. The ESTA application completed online is needed before an individual can board their flight or ship to the U.S. or cross at a land border. The application requires information like passport details, home and email address, phone number, and emergency contact. Travelers may also be asked questions regarding communicable diseases, arrests and convictions for certain crimes, and past history of visa revocation or deportation, according to the ESTA website. An approved ESTA application is generally valid for 2 years. U.S. Customs and Border Protection is proposing to decommission the ESTA website and replace it with an app. People from these countries planning to visit the U.S. would be asked to provide 5 years of their social media history, email addresses used in the past 10 years, telephone numbers used in the past 5 years, and information about family members, including their addresses and telephone numbers. Quote, so it's a whole host of information that flies in the face of the spirit of ESTA, says Rosanna Berardi, a Buffalo-based immigration lawyer. No details have been given on how people would submit their social media history. Berardi said it's all speculative at this point, but based on current rhetoric, border officials would likely be looking for anti-American sentiments or people involved in anti-American groups. Brian Hunt, counsel at the U.S.-based immigration law firm Fragaman, said they will likely be using AI tools to scan social media accounts for certain keywords. Quote, there's been other recent programs where they are looking at social media and they're talking about posts supporting terrorism, supporting anti-Semitic violence, Hunt said. For example, U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services now considers whether an applicant for benefits such as a green card endorsed, promoted, supported, or otherwise espoused anti-American, terrorist, or anti-Semitic views. Hunt said there are simply no provision in law that would allow border officials to deny someone entry if they had made critical comments about U.S. President Donald Trump on social media. Quote, they could try some kind of discretionary denial, but the fact is that the courts really wouldn't stand for that. Quote, they can't exclude someone, deny them entry, deny them a visa without giving a reason, and the reason has to be consistent with the law. But Berardi said applicants should be aware that there's no right to privacy for a foreign national coming into the U.S. regarding personal information like social media posts. Quote, the U.S. Constitution and Supreme Court are very clear on that. The First Amendment right applies only to individuals physically present in the U.S., she said. Berardi said 99.9% of Canadians won't be affected by the proposed changes. Canadians are not part of the VWP. Oh, I thought we were, and do not need to apply through ESTA to visit the U.S. and mostly just need to show their passport. There are, however, 2 types of visa categories that Canadians use, Berardi said. One is called the investor visa, which requires a Canadian to go to the U.S. consulate for an interview, but they've been doing that at the visa appointment level for years now, so really not a big change, she said. The other category is the K-1 fiancé visa, she said, under which an incomer planning to marry a U.S. citizen must do so within 90 days of entering the country. Quote, but for the vast majority of Canadians, it's still show your passport and go, she said. Okay, well, that's good to know, because I know that we did not need a visa, so I figured that we were part of the VWP, but I guess we are part of a different stream there. But if you have family members in any of those other nations, you might want them to be aware of these changes. It seems like a lot of information to be asking for, and maybe not everybody would be too keen on wanting to hand that out. Another piece of the news coming up, I'm just looking to make sure that I have enough time to end the show because the battery's about to go out. But as we mentioned on the show, when it comes to the high-speed rail train, we had suggested on the show that a good way to accelerate it might be because they wanted to start it in 4 years rather than 8, and maybe they would be able to start some of it in 2 if they just took care of the Montreal to Ottawa leg, which would be the shortest one and the one with the also with high traffic, if they planned to complete that first. Well, it says here that Montreal-Ottawa will be the first leg of the high-speed rail plan, but the project is still scheduled to break ground in 2029. that doesn't make it happen faster. Transport Minister Stephen McKinnon announced the project alongside the CEO of Alto, the Crown Corporation overseeing the project. The exact 200-kilometer route hasn't been finalized, but it will include a stop in Laval. An overall infrastructure project is estimated to cost between $60 and $90 billion and was initially launched by the Trudeau government in February. There you go. Just little bits of news here. A couple little things. We mentioned the recall petitions in Alberta. The one that was targeting Danielle Smith in particular has got the go-ahead. It is been approved. So that is happening as well. Just going to take a look again. There's another story about the high-speed train here, just to see if there's any additional information for you here. Federal Transport Minister Stephen Guilbeault made the announcement this morning alongside Markham-Unionville, the CEO of Alto, the Crown Corporation overseeing the project. The decision to start with a 200-kilometer stretch between Montreal and Ottawa comes down to geography, with it being the shortest and flattest section of the proposed corridor. Developers also wanted to launch the project with a segment that straddles the provincial border. Construction on the remaining segments connecting Quebec City to Montreal and Ottawa to Toronto will begin at a later unspecified date. However, in my environmental assessments and consultations for those legs would begin well before the first phase is complete. Expropriations are expected to be part of the process. It remains unclear when passengers will actually be able to board the first high-speed train. Sources suggest each segment could take 7 to 8 years to build. The massive infrastructure project, estimated to cost between $60 and $90 billion, was officially launched by the Trudeau government last February. It is now a key plank for the Mark Carney government's infrastructure agenda. The network aims to cut travel time between Montreal and Toronto to just 3 hours, down from the current 5 hours or more. The trip between Montreal and Quebec City would be reduced to approximately 90 minutes. The announcement comes a day after dozens of Via Rail passengers traveling from Toronto to Ottawa were stranded for 12 hours overnight after an earlier train broke down near Brockville. The project is being managed by Alto, with construction awarded to the Cadence Consortium. That group includes major players such as CDPQ, Infra, Atkins Realis, formerly SNC-Lavalin, Air Canada, and French rail operator SNCF Voyageurs. I've ridden SNCF, very good service, by the way. And I've also been stuck on a Via train overnight once. Very interesting experience, I have to say. So there we go, kids and cubs. Just a little bit of extra news there for you. And I just wanted to make sure that I had everything there for you. All right, kids and cubs, that's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. We hope that you love listening to us because we love making this for you. Remember, sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. So please tell your peeps and poops all about us, especially if you share why it is our content resonates with you, not our continent. We haven't taken over the world yet. Why our content resonates with you, because that's advertising we cannot buy. Send your love to Mr. Grizzly, who I'm sure is on vacation now or getting ready to go, and would love the good vibes for his trip as well. Kids and cubs, if you would like us to help you, thanks to the Ray Girl, we can. If you are on the go and can't watch the show live with us, you can go to our pod page, which she sponsors. That's podpage.com/thetruenortheagerbeaver with a hyphen between each one of those words, or you just scan this QR code that appears right here on the screen. And when you go there and click subscribe, when we have something fresh off the bandwidth for our podcast, ears only version that comes to you. That way you can take on the day and remain informed at the same time. If you would like to help us, kids and cubs, please travel on down to the True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated YouTube page, where we are at 28,000 subscribers and trying to get to 30,000 before the end of the year with our latest advertising push. And click on our buttons, like, share, and subscribe. You will meet with the approval of kids Elaine and Cassie. It helps us with the algorithm, and it makes us very happy when we see our numbers go up. So thank you for that. And if you would like to help us in other ways, kids and cubs, you might want to go to our coffee page, where you will find the Eager Beaver Lodge's Emergency Hydration Fund. That QR code that just appeared in the corner will bring you there. And if you would like to offer us an enthusiastic expression of encouragement because you like our content and you want to encourage us to do more, that's where you can leave it. A couple of toonies and loonies in our jar makes us very happy and helps us bring this show to you. And if you are doing the Buy Canadian thing, truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com is our email address. Send us a direct transfer. You avoid giving money to the U.S. broligarchy. we get that money instead, which means we get 100% of your donation, and it goes further. And of course, if you are watching on YouTube, we have the super chat function and memberships, and everything you're able to contribute means a lot to us. But kids and cubs, as we keep on saying, if you're not able to contribute financially, we want to hear from you. And maybe you can contribute in word by letting us know what you think about the show or offering us some suggestions for guests. Uh, Very, very important. And truenortheagerbeaver at gmail.com is the email address you use for that too. And if you want to reach us on our socials, at trueager at the Blue Sky Beaver Lodge on the Jitter, True North Eager Beaver on Facebook. And if you're watching live with the Damn Fam or on your own time on our YouTube channel, right down here in the comments section, leave us a little something. We read everything, even though we're not able to get back to everyone. And of course, there's the Damn Fam Discord. And of course, there's an Instagram that our good friend Kit Uncover operates for us. And please check us out over there. We would be very happy to receive your visit and company there. Kits and Cubs, because democracy is something that you do, again, House of Commons petition, I don't remember the number off the top of my head, so maybe doesn't, no point mentioning it, but there's a House of Commons petition circulating at the moment to encourage the House to table legislation that would make it such that foreign media ownership laws would make it such that media is owned by Canadians and operated by Canadians for the best interests of Canadians. And I would encourage you to go sign it. I believe it's House of Commons Petition 6871, if I'm not mistaken. So please go there and sign that. Words of wisdom, kids and cubs. Enjoy your Zen. I was very, very frustrated this morning, but I had a great day yesterday because I enjoyed my Zen the previous day. And despite my frustrations, I am still Zen now because I had some lovely Damn Fam time with you. So find your Zen and bask in it for a while. Those are my words of wisdom. And have a fantastic weekend too, by the way. All right. It could be a tough world out there. Get some cubs, so please be kind to and gentle with yourself. Probably will not have an Easter egg because I've got 2% left on my phone battery. But if at the count of 3, kits and cubs, you can say, Mr. Beaver, please cue the cock. That would make me very happy because I love a little audience participation. On 1, 2, and 3, let's hear it. Oh, kits and cubs, so melodious and polyphonic. How can I resist?
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music.
All right, kids and cubs. Got a little bit of left, so maybe we can squeeze something in. You know what? I'm going to quit while I'm ahead. I'm going to say amour et bisous. Have a fantastic weekend, and we will see you on Monday. All right? Bye, everyone. Whoops. And again, I did not stick the dismount. Let's try that one more time.